Maybe the journey isn't about becoming anything. Maybe the journey is about unbecoming everything that isn't really you so that you can become the person you were meant to be in the first place. These are the words of Paulo Coelho, the Brazilian author and lyricist most famous for his book, The Alchemist. My name is Edward Durante, and this is Life Perfect Square. You know, all of us at one time or another, maybe more often than one time or another, we start to think about our lives and the position we have in our lives as a parent, as a son or daughter, as a grandson or granddaughter, as a friend, as an employee or an employer, as a businessman, as a consumer. And we start to think that maybe we're playing a role. And the roles that we're playing are not the ones that we'd like to be playing or that we've defined for ourselves. Where did those roles come from? Maybe we got them from our peer group. Maybe we got them from our friends. Maybe we got them from those closest to us in our family, our parents, our children, our husbands or wives, the other people that we interact with. Certainly we're influenced by social media and all the other media that's out there, TV programming, magazines, advertisements. We're constantly bombarded with ideas about who we should be, how we should act, what we should wear, where we should go, the cars that we should drive, the foods that we should eat, the programming we should consume, and the political parties that we're supposed to belong to. I don't know about you, but every once in a while I take an inventory of this and I think, who told me I have to do this? Is this really working for me? I've heard people, famous people sometimes not so famous, who've said to me, I feel like I'm an actor or an imposter. And this has given rise to a psychological complex called the imposter complex. If you feel like an imposter in your life, maybe it's time for you to sit down and take an inventory for yourself and decide what things are still useful, what ideas, what morals, what values, what roles you're playing. Think about them. How did I get these? Are they working? Should I make changes? Buckminster Fuller said that you can't really, resist something that already is out there and performing. So in terms of a system, you can't really resist it because you give energy to it. Just like that in your life. If you resist the things that you don't like about your life or your behavior, you're just giving them energy and you're perpetuating them. No, the way to overthrow a system is to create something new that's more effective, that takes the place of the system that's in place. You can do this. You can sit down and you can map out a new strategy for yourself at any time. I was looking at some artwork the other day, and I was thinking about how artists come to these masterpieces, whether they're painters or sculptors or musicians or architects. Where did those masterpieces come from? Well, I've heard artists talk about this in the past, and whenever they've been asked, they've given somewhat uniform answers. The answers might be in different words and they might be slightly altered, but basically they're saying, I don't know, it just came to me, like it was coming through me. It didn't come from me, it came from somewhere else, from up above, from a connection that they had with the source. We all have this connection. We like to deny it, but we have this connection. Immanuel Kant called it the morphic field. The morphic field today has taken on a new meaning. You don't have to understand what the morphic field is. I can give you a pretty brief description. The morphic field basically says that all the energy, all the ideas, all the thought process, all the inspirations, all the trials and tribulations, sadness and happiness, everything that's ever existed in the minds and discourse of human beings from the beginning of time is out there in energy vibration. vibrational form, and it surrounds us all the time. And our cells have their own intelligence, all 3.5 trillion of them. They have this intelligence, and they reach out with their own antenna, and they can pull from this morphic field. Typically, we're blocking that connection to the morphic field, but every once in a while, we get out of the way, so to speak, and we let that come into our lives. I believe artists and musicians and other people are able to do this and create these masterpieces. So with this in mind, I was looking at some color plates in an art book, and I came upon the Pietà. And I think you're probably familiar with the Pietà. It shows a marble carving of the Christ laying across Mary's lap. And it's a very famous carving. It was carved out of one block of stone marble, and it was done by Michelangelo when he was 24 years of age. Pretty remarkable. I obviously have not been able to speak to Michelangelo to find out what his inspiration was, but I have spoken to and read accounts from other famous sculptors. And this one stuck with me. There was a sculptor who, it's irrelevant what his name was or what his work was, but when he was asked how he could look at a solid block of marble and decide how to carve a statue, for example, out of that block of marble, you know what he said? He said, I simply envision how it's going to look when it's finished, and then I remove every part of the marble that doesn't correspond to the finished product. Pretty interesting, isn't it? So maybe what we need to do in our lives is get a clear vision of who we are, who we'd like to be. Be the person that you'd like to be. Envision that. See what it is. See yourself as that energetic, enthusiastic, inspirational person doing something that you're passionate about. See yourself shaking hands with people, receiving awards, helping others, having good things said about you, saying good things to others. Maybe you get, invited to a graduation ceremony to be a guest speaker, motivational speaker. Maybe you're standing up in front of a group of people who were formerly alcoholics or had drug abuse problems, and now you're talking about how you kicked those habits and how you've gone on to have a productive life. Think about how you wish to live your life in joy and passion and giving to other people in a way that helps them. Then, once you've got that vision clear in mind and you can feel it throughout your whole body, you can feel those sensations. Maybe the hairs on your arm are standing up, or you've got goose flesh. We've heard that term before. Or the hair on the back of your neck stands up. Maybe this is telling you something whenever that happens. It's telling you that all the cells in your body are firing at the same time. They're reacting to the passion that you're thinking about. So once you have that image, then what you need to do is chip away all the things that do not contribute to that vision. Just like the sculptor who sees the vision of the statue inside the block of marble and chips away every part of the marble that doesn't contribute to that finished product, that's what you do. Create the vision of who you want to be, alive, on fire, inspired, passionate, eager to meet the next challenge, contributing to others, getting feedback from the world that says you're doing the right thing and that you're giving to other people. Success surrounds you. All the material success comes to you. All the accolades come to you. Or maybe it's just a quiet success. Maybe you're helping other people and you're doing this anonymously. That's great too, because you'll get the self-satisfaction of doing so. Whatever that is, get that image deep down inside and feel it through every fiber of your being. And once you do that, compare it to what you're doing today, to the roles that you're playing, to the vision that you have of yourself on a daily basis today, and take a chisel to it and cut it out. Knock out those pieces that don't add up. Chisel away until you refine that image, and the image that you create in your mind is the image that you're living every day. You can do that. Neville said that each of us has a power that nothing on earth can compare to. Neville Goddard. I've quoted him before. If you haven't read Neville, you should. Read At Your Command and The Power of Awareness. These are powerful books that will put you on the right path. But today what I want to talk about a little bit more, I want to talk about how we're changing in this 21st century. How everything around us is changing. Technology is bringing in new ideas, new concepts. Some of them are exciting and they seem to be shortcuts. They're hacks into our lives that make things easier and more efficient. I'm not sure that they're all beneficial to us. There's a lot of talk about how AI is impacting our lives, artificial intelligence, the things about it that are good, how we can access information, how it can be programmed to provide services that people don't wish to service anymore, or that they can do them more efficiently. Perhaps they'll even be able to perform routine surgeries that you won't need physicians anymore, and they can do them more efficiently. They don't take time off. They don't stay up late at night. They don't suffer from a lack of sleep. Maybe these are good things, but there's also some severe downsides, and there's a movement called the transhumanism movement. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but when I talk about it, you may become more familiar with it. So transhumanism basically says that at some point, we're going to reach a singularity where technology and human beings are merged together. You don't think that's true? Well, some of these things are already underway, and they're given to us as something that is beneficial. For example, we have prosthetic devices if someone has lost the use of a hand or an arm or their legs, and we can put in prosthetic devices that will assist them with this and give them functionality where they had none before. This sounds great, doesn't it? Then there's something called the neural link, which is currently being explored by people out there, great inventors, people who have become part of our lives. Everyone knows the names. I won't mention them here. And this neural link, I saw this device that was fabulous. I saw a quadriplegic who could not in any way communicate, and all of a sudden he had this neural link implanted in his skull, and what it was doing was giving electronic messages to the parts of his body so that he could actually move these mechanical prosthetic hands and prosthetic feet, and eventually they're talking about being able to take someone with severe spinal cord injuries, like this man with the quadriplegic, and to be able to get him where he can actually walk on his own. And those impulses would be directed by this neural link that's put into his brain. Sounds great. Great breakthrough. However, I've also seen where, the idea of transhumanism is that human beings have weaknesses. Some of the weaknesses are quoted to be our emotions, our ability to suffer, to have pain and loss and compassion for other people. This sometimes is called a weakness. And those weaknesses would be factored out if we had, say, you could take an AI brain and implant it in a human body. There are other weaknesses as well. We have disease. We're prone to things like heart disease and cancer and other things that have taken their toll on human lives over the years. And with various technologies, gene editing, CRISPR technology, we can go in and identify a proclivity to a particular disease even before it might manifest itself in that person. And we could go in and edit those genes, and we could make them stronger so that they wouldn't have to suffer from any of these diseases. Also sounds really great, doesn't it? We can even grow certain organs in a laboratory, bladders, simple things like a bladder. These are being done all the time, but in the future, perhaps we're going to be able to grow hearts and lungs and kidneys and pancreas and liver and all kinds of other organs that can be transplanted into humans. We can also put some kind of nanobots inside. We can inject them into your bloodstream, and those nanobots will live inside you, and they will attack any illness before it happens. They'll find potentially cancerous cells before they become a tumor, and they will be able to fight against them. All of this sounds great, except that it's taking away from the human side of who we are. And we have divinity already inside us. If you read, any of the Gospels, if you read any biblical texts, there's a great quote that heaven is within you. That didn't just mean, like you can conjure it up in your mind, although you can do that as well through brain-heart coordinating, but what it really means, literally, heaven is within you. You have divinity within you. I have it within me. We all have it within each other. And we've just kind of forgotten about it. But in this 21st century, with all this technology that's coming at us, all this movement towards transhumanism, we're going to remember more and more of us are waking up and realizing we have unlimited potential. They measure certain output that human beings have, and one of the measurements is your ability to generate different kinds of thought waves. And in those thought waves, when you're in meditation, they have actually measured the rays that come out from your thought patterns to be somewhere in the range of 15 to 40 hertz. And it's been theorized that 40 hertz is the highest it could be. However, recently, some monks in Tibet, when they were meditating, they could raise their rate up to 80 hertz and 100 hertz and 200 hertz. Anything 40 and above are called gamma, and anything above 80 to 100 and above are called hyper gamma. And yes, we can measure this. And if one person can do it, anyone can do it. That's how things operate in the real world. Once we see another individual do something that was heretofore thought of as impossible to do, then all of a sudden other people can do it. We mentioned this before with the breaking of the 4-minute mile of Roger Bannister, who broke the 4-minute mile for the first time. And within 6 months, there were at least 8 other people who ran sub 4-minute miles. I just saw the other day that the current world record was just smashed, and it's now 342.6. And now they're saying the same thing they said before Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, that a human being could not run any faster than 342.6 in a mile. He's running at 16 miles per hour average. But the fact of the matter is, we human beings can do everything because we have a divine spark within us, and that divine spark, although hidden and secreted away, is coming to the forefront. And the 21st century is when we're going to be able to do it. So simply in your life today, I want you to be not the scholar, not the technology expert. I want you to be a sculptor. I want you to cut away from the vision of yourself in your ideal form, what you would be doing if money and responsibilities didn't exist. What would you be doing today that would give you joy and passion and utilize the talents and strengths that you have? I want you to cut away. I want you to be like that sculptor with the block of marble. Take your chisel and chisel away everything that doesn't match up to the vision that you have in your mind. You can do this. We can all do this. And you will become the powerful being that you were meant to be, influencing lives around you, giving others positive energy, inspiration, and your life and your actions will be coordinated in such a way that is joyful to you every single minute of every day that you are alive. This is what you were meant to do, nothing less. Please go to my podcasts and take a look at the other ones I have out there on Life Perfect Square. You can subscribe, and you can always find my podcasts on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.